Can't afford the money. We're broke. Look, folks, we're broke.
Watch me unbox my debt badge. What is a debt badge? What I expect to see here is a sort of device that I can pin on my lapel that shows a long string of ticking numbers, maybe even looks like a bomb. And inside the badge is a small computer that logs onto the Treasury's website daily to keep the actual debt number updated. Okay, as we're struggling to get this open and see what this is like, I really don't have a good concept for what this is going to look like. Okay, it looks like this is the badge. There are some instructions for connecting it to Wi-Fi. It looks like a charging cord here, and then the badge itself. Oh wow, I just hit the power button and there it is. There is the number, over $36 trillion. So it looks like this will need to be charged at times, but we do have the number right there. The U.S. national debt. Apparently they have recently logged onto the debt website. I think I'm gonna have to change my shirt in order to wear this, just with the way this fits. So yeah, there is that number, over 36 trillion, and it is counting up as our U.S. national debt just keeps increasing. So as I'm wearing this somewhat perhaps mismatched outfit now for the video, I want to tell you about this debt badge. And over here you can see the little sort of USB plug-in in order to charge it. There, as that number keeps racking up. So this long string of ticking numbers, what is this? It's in the tens of trillions, so I think this is a 14-digit number that displays right here. Yes, there's a small computer in this badge that truly logs onto the Treasury's website daily. So this number of over $36 trillion in rising is also a number that you can see at usdebtclock.org in the upper left. And this badge is thanks to U.S. Congressman Thomas Massey. He invented this, and you know what he does with this? He wears this when he meets with other members of Congress on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. And he won't let them avert their eyes. So the point of this today is to tell you how bad our national debt is, what we do about the debt, and then what this all means and what this has to do with real estate investing as well. So you can imagine when Congressman Massey is having conversations about how to spend money, I mean, this is in all of the other Congress people's face. And this $36 trillion number, it rises by another $1 trillion every 100 days. And, you know, when you already have a number this big, how can you even put this gargantuan figure into perspective? All right, well, a dollar bill is just over 6 inches long. So let me give you a galactic measuring stick. Our $36 trillion debt is so huge that if our trail of dollars laid end to end, this would breeze past Mars, which is 140 million miles away, roughly $1.5 trillion, that's all. The next planet out is Jupiter, the giant of the solar system. It only takes about $4.5 trillion bills to reach Jupiter. Next up is Saturn, but it's just $9 trillion bills away. On average, even Saturn can't put a ring around U.S. debt, so we continue to the outer planets. We pass Uranus and arrive at Neptune. Well, Neptune is just under 30 trillion bills away, so we've reached the last official planet in our solar system, and we still have over $6 trillion in debt to go. So 36 trillion of them, that would almost reach Pluto. There is your galactic perspective on how today's debt of $36 trillion to $37 trillion really is. And another frame of reference for this is that it's over $100,000 in debt per citizen and over $270K per taxpayer. And as Representative Massey said himself, when he wears this on the floor of the U.S. House, some people think it's a bomb. It is a sort of bomb. A debt bomb. Ah yes, thanks to the Department of the Treasury, also known as the Department of the Debt. Well, what's driving this debt? Well, just like if your household's annual income didn't keep up with your higher expenses, well, government income doesn't keep up with their expenses. As we look here, we see the government's income on the left. Note how most income is from tax revenue, and it's about $5 trillion annually. I'm just rounding here, but look at the expenses on the right, largely entitlements. We've got Social Security, health like Medicare and Medicaid. The interest expense on the debt alone is now nearly $8 trillion per year and rising. Now, that's even more than our world-leading national defense budget, and that creates a deficit of almost $2 trillion, which just gets tacked onto our all-time national debt of this $36 trillion number. The U.S. is the greatest debtor nation in the history of the world, despite being a prosperous nation and the world's most powerful. Here's the thing though, you gotta ask, if you were put in charge and then ask how you're going to reduce the debt, there's not an easy answer anymore. And this is why presidential candidates rarely discuss it. If you say you want to cut Social Security or Medicare, you're probably not going to be elected. That is political suicide, because citizens have become dependent on those programs for better or for worse. All right, then, well, if you aren't going to cut spending, then if you're the government, you could approach it from the other side and raise revenue by increasing taxes to pay down your debt. Well, increasing taxes is really unpopular too, and you can start to understand why. The debt is not going down. And, really two of the most popular answers that I hear are to cut defense spending or cut the Department of Education. This chart of president spending shows that it happens under the watch of them all. So it's not about petty partisan politics. I'll show you how much this badge costs shortly and where I got it from, but our debt is even greater than our annual productivity. The US debt-to-GDP ratio is about 120%. That's super easy math. It's about 36 trillion in debt right here, divided by 30 trillion in GDP. All right, well, how do we get out of debt? Well, we could default and just not pay it back, but that's politically unpopular globally, and China could just stop sending us their goods then. America could also sell its assets to get out of it. Imagine if the Empire State Building were sold to Russia. Or if France bought back the Statue of Liberty and then leased it to us in order for us to keep it here, well, then the US becomes a rent-paying tenant. A more optimistic solution is that the US could unleash new technology to increase our GDP. But here's the most likely solution to deal with our debt. The most likely by far, and it would be the same way that you would handle your debt if you owed your best friend $1 million and you somehow owned a dollar printer like our government does. The easiest answer is for the Treasury to print more dollars. If you're the US and you owe China $1 trillion, which actually is about how much we owe China, we'll just print more dollars. It makes it a lot easier to pay them back. That's basically how we have been handling our problem right here. If you live in the United States, like I do, as the greatest debtor nation in the history of the world, chances are we're just going to keep quietly printing our way out of it, letting more and more dollars roll off the press. It's the most politically expedient thing to do, and that is inflation. The definition of inflation is an expansion of the money supply, and the result is in the debasement of the purchasing power of your dollar. So that's why you don't want to be a big saver. You want to be a big debtor, as strange as that sounds. And as we're talking here, the debt's racking up. I don't know how many, maybe it's just several million or even billion that it has racked up just since we've been talking. But see, one solution for you is that owning real estate with a loan makes you a savvy debtor. You can do this at scale. With investment property, your tenant even pays the principal and interest for you. But even in your primary residence, say with $500K of mortgage debt that you have 3% annual inflation, that debases your mortgage debt for you by $15,000 every single year, since wages and salaries and rents all tend to float up with inflation, silently reducing your debt burden. Just like the government wants to print more dollars and create inflation to debase their debt, That debases your debt for you too, and actually enriches you. Savvy debt produces a wealth-building tailwind for you as long as you avoid over-leverage and you or your tenants can service your debt. But conversely, for every, say, $100,000 that a saver has tucked under the mattress, inflation debases their prosperity, and that steals the fruits of their labor, rather than debasing your debt like it does to the lender. So the real summary here is that huge and ballooning national debt, it's right here on this dorky debt clock. It's a good reminder. It helps ensure that the US will print more dollars to pay it back, just like they've been doing for decades. That's an inflationary future. Because inflation transfers wealth from lenders to borrowers, use debt and inflation to enrich you, not impoverish you, and be a savvy mortgage debtor. That's how you can responsibly get a hold of a lot of debt. Oh, and this badge costs $99 plus shipping. You can find them here. And I practice what I preach. From a young age, I had millions in debt. And thanks to the near certainty of inflation, I just keep leveraging it for profit with real estate investing. And it sounds a little reckless until you understand it. So watch this now. I break down exactly how I responsibly leverage millions in debt for profit in this video right here.